So when you look at our reality, you have this area within our galaxy, within our universe, and then you have an area outside that called infinity. Well, I think I found a different infinity which corresponds to the other infinity. So there's two infinities. So if you go all the way this way, you get to infinity. If you go all the way that way and this way, away from you, it's infinity. But if you go this way and halfway and halfway and halfway, and you keep going halfway, you go halfway to infinity because you're always going halfway. So that means that there's infinity everywhere I can go halfway. So we are actually in infinity inside a substance in infinity. So this is how it works. You have a galaxy. It's spinning around in a big circle. It's denser than the outside of the galaxy. Just like if you were taking this air and you spun it around in a circle. It's denser than the air over here. Well, this galaxy in this air pocket wants to go back to the less dense part. So when it wants to go back, it has to go back through infinity. So you take something and you go halfway, 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 and it creates a hole in our time-space. And that, so I'll draw it, watch. So we have this hole. So think of this as really, really, really small. And it just goes down, and things come into it, and it gets so close together, and then it finally escapes out into infinity, but it's really, really teeny. So when it does this, it creates this gap, and it goes inside, and it will pull bigger things in, but the bigger things will get stuck. And there's gaps in between the bigger things, which are infinity. So all these little things have infinity next to them. And as it keeps pulling more stuff in, so think of this as a drain now. A drain all the way down to infinity. Very, very teeny things, we call them ether, can make it out, but anything bigger gets stuck. So they get stuck like so. And when they get stuck, more stuff piles on top and causes more pressure on it and starts breaking these things up. So when they break up, they get smaller and they can move down another notch. Then they break up and they get smaller and they can move down a notch. And they keep getting smaller and smaller and they keep breaking apart. But when they break apart, they cause a friction. When they rub together, they cause a friction. A heat gets made. So you get all this stuff going down, breaking apart, and you have the heat coming back out. So you got two forces. You got a force going down inside and a force coming back out. So the force will come right back out, like this. This is how, remember this is my theory, could be wrong, but it's pretty cool. So take a time-space warp where everything goes into it and starts causing heat. So this heat causes light. So now light is coming out of this thing. So this darkness of this void causes light to come out. So you can think of the sun or a star is just a gap with all this stuff trying to go into the gap, causing heat and light. So inside the sun, there's probably a little black hole. This would be considered a black hole. So you have, if it's a really big black hole, then the light can't make it out until it gets bigger, and then light comes out. So the center of the Earth will have one of these. This is the center of the Earth, and then you have the iron trying to get in, and that causes more friction and heat. Then you get all these magma above it. Then it starts to cool because it's further away from the source of heat. And then you get a crust, and then on the crust you have electromagnetic stuff coming out of it, and that causes things to grow, like trees and plants and what have you. But if it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, this becomes a sun. If it gets smaller and smaller, it becomes a moon. So the difference between a sun and the moon is how big this thing is. So if it's really big, it would be a galaxy. So as it goes in, it causes a whirlpool. So it spins around like this. So you have a galaxy here, but then what you don't see in the galaxy is the part that's down on the bottom. Now, I'm going to try to explain, because we live here. So I'm going to try to explain what this part here is to make this more with our reality. So inside of you, there's little teeny molecules with little teeny atoms, which kind of do the same thing. You have a hole, and you have the protons and neutrons in this little area. And then outside, you have the electrons spinning around in the galaxy. So I'm going to flip my board around, and we're going to try to examine what this part here looks like. So we have a yin force and a yang force making a new force together. So we have a force that goes this way and a force that goes this way. And this force meeting this force creates a cycle. So we draw a cycle kind of like that. So we get a force coming down, meeting another force going the other way. And then inside this one, you have a force going down. And inside this one, you have another force going this way. So this is at the point of balance between this and this. Otherwise, it's just spinning. So this is a recognizable symbol. If you want to look at our reality, you have Earth down at the bottom, and you have the sky above us. This is considered sunlight. Anything that comes down is considered yang energy, fraternal energy, energy that penetrates into something, and the energy coming back up is the yin energy that was still before. Now, because this moved it, is coming back up. So sunlight comes down, it hits the Earth. Some of it goes through, but some of it turns into infrared energy and heat and comes back up. So this part is actually yin from the Earth coming back up. So you have sunlight coming down, heating water, for instance, and then steam, as it separates, gets lighter, comes back up, and it cools down as it gets away from this source, and then it contracts and comes back down again. So I'm going to draw this as yang energy in a Chinese metaphysical way. And this is yin energy. So as it comes up, the yin energy condenses and starts to become yang energy again. So this would be like a cloud up here. And this thing comes to a point where it reaches its maximum and it can't go up any further. It condenses, and because it's condensing, gravity will pull it back down, and then it will just start a cycle. This is what we call the cycle of life and death. And the thing about the cycle that's cool about it is that it's life. But the bad thing about it is that it's also death. So you want to be able to get off this cycle, that you can follow the way of nature and learn how nature works, and then use that system of nature against itself to pull yourself out of this cycle. And this is the age of the 5 phases. So the 5 phases are birth, growth. So this is all growth. This is all getting bigger. This is decline. This is getting smaller, condensing, separating, condensing. And this is transformation. It's between these two things. It's neither nor, but both. And then you have the beginning of decline. Then you have death. And everything below here is considered death. It's not in our reality. We aren't conscious of it. It's still there, but we're not conscious of it, and because we're not conscious of it, it's considered death. if you die, but you don't die, you become a spirit or whatever, but we're not conscious of what happens, that's death. And everybody's afraid of death because everybody is fearful of not knowing what's going on. So from here on, this is death, beginning, springtime, the beginning of springtime, the beginning of summertime. This is harvest time. This is the beginning of fall. This is fall. This is the beginning of winter, and this is winter. So this point here is the transition between winter and summer. This is the point between summer and winter. The beginning of daylight, maximum daylight, and after maximum daylight, it becomes the beginning. It's still light, but this is the beginning of nighttime. So noon is the beginning of nighttime, and midnight is the beginning of daytime. You have winter solstice, summer solstice. In between these two, you have another transformational area between springtime and summertime, and between fall and winter. So these four things here are called transformation. It's the area where things change. And they kind of work with reality. So if you look at reality, our reality, not reality of another galaxy, but our reality, you see patterns, and you'll see things like the planet Venus orbiting the sun. And you see Earth orbiting the sun. But then you'll notice that Venus and Earth, they meet every 1.6 years. So they'll meet, we can use this. So pretend this is where they meet. So you got Earth over here, and you got Venus inside, and this is where the sun is. You'll say, they start here, Venus and the sun hanging out together. They go around the circle 1.6 years, and they'll meet here. Venus is faster, but they still meet here. In 1.6 years, they'll meet here. 1.6 years, they'll meet here. And 1.6 years, they'll meet here. And if you look at the way plants grow, so if you're on the top of a tree looking down, you'll find that the branches also come out every 1.6 turns of the tree. Or they usually come out this way. And that's really just to keep in balance. If they all came out one side, they would fall over. If they all went in balance, so they can grow taller. It's kind of the best fit kind of thing. So you can think of a sunflower seed or a sunflower. You have a face of a sunflower, and you have a spiral going out this way. And then you have a spiral going out this way. This spiral going this way is called the Fibonacci sequence, and the other one is called the Lucas number. And all that means is that this is the best fit for the seeds to get packed into a sunflower. You get more seeds when you follow this little ratio, and this ratio is called the golden ratio. So here's how it works on, well, this is how you can actually use it for something. Otherwise, it's just a theory that it's up in the air and it's not useful. So you try to think of as many things as you can that falls into this ratio. So you have springtime, the beginning of springtime, the beginning of summertime, like this. But you also have your life. This is when you're being made inside your mother's womb. This is when you're born. This is when you're a kid, teenager, you're a fully grown adult, and this is your maximum. And then you decide, oh, I really should get a 401k. Then you start planning for this. As soon as you start planning for this, you're no longer on this side of growth, you're on this side of decline. You start shrinking, your bones get smaller, you get smaller, everything gets smaller, and you get shrinking, your world gets smaller, and poof, all of a sudden you're gone, and you enter into this phase, which we don't have any knowledge of, and then who knows? Then you can have it like emotions. You can get angry. This is anger. You're trying to break out of a shell. So you have fall, spring. So here the seeds are made, they're tightly packed, they're put into the earth, and here they're trying to expand, break out of the seed, like how a baby breaks out of the mother, or a chicken breaks out of an egg. This is the part where you break out. You were alive before this, just that you weren't in this reality. You're inside a reality of a little egg, or a shell, or a seed pocket. So this is an explosion. This is energy that looks like this. It's all separating. So the baby pushes down with his feet against the mom's muscles and tries to push his head out. Well, if you give birth the Native American way, where you squat, otherwise you push on this diaphragm, or it's with your diaphragm. Breathe. Or a chicken, as it's trying to pop out of an egg, it will push its feet down to push out. Or a seed will push its roots down to push its top out. So it's just a separation. Here, the separation gets bigger, and it's branching out like this. So you have this core that used to be here, and now these branches will come out. Kind of like this. And it just keeps going, and it goes straighter as it goes up. This is like a shell. This is how tree branches come out further apart, and then they branch out even further from this one, and branch out even further and further and further. And they keep branching out. This is more of the fractal energy. And as this keeps getting bigger and bigger, these keep branching out, until eventually another seed is made. So the seed turns into a fruit, or flower, then fruit. And right here, it's a fruit, or a seed, and then humans pluck it, or it comes here. So this is when it falls on the ground. So you have this area from here to here where the fruit's made, and this is falls off the ground and goes back down to the ground again. So this is a harvest. So between here and here, you harvest the fruits, and then you store them and put them back into your basement or whatever for springtime, or for this part here when you don't have anything growing. So you take this and you eat it here. Everything kind of works this way. But how does it work for you? So say you have a problem with emotions. So you have anger. So there's a thing in this thing called the controlling cycle. This controls this spin. And this works on the same principle how Venus and the Earth rotate, and they meet every 1.6 years in the golden ratio. So in the golden ratio, they meet every 1.6 years. So this part here joins with this part. This part here joins with this part. This part here joins with this part. This part here joins with this part and closes off over here. This is called the controlling cycle. You have wood, fire, fractals burning out, earth, transformation, you have metal, it's constricting, and you have water. And water is the part that disappears into the ground, and you never see it again until it comes up as something else. So wood controls earth. If you have a hill and you chop all the trees off of it, then the earth will fall down. If the earth falls down, you plant more trees and it doesn't fall down anymore. Earth controls water. So water falls down, hits the side of a hill, changes its direction, it comes in a gully, and eventually it ends up in the ocean. And the ocean is like a big cup, but it's made of earth that holds the water. Water controls fire. Well, that's obvious. And then fire controls metal. If you have metal and you want to change the shape of it, you heat it up. You can take your ex-marriage rings and make a pendant out of it, or you pound metal into a horseshoe. You take fire and you create heat on the earth and you suck out the metal. So it's, and then you have metal controlling wood. So if you look at this, this is made of wood and it has metal brackets. It has metal hinges. You have nails that hold wood together. Basically you have metal axes that chop down things, metal chainsaws, whatever. It's because metal is this way. Is constriction. And water is the opposite of this one, but it goes this way, inside here. So it starts here, and it goes down the drain, and it disappears. This drain is this drain. So you have the drain going down, and it goes all the way down until it gets so small that the pieces break off and cause heat, and you have the fractal fire coming back out again. So here to here is that drain, and here is the in-between spots of that drain. So let's say you have anger again. So anger is trying to break out of something, it's frustration, you have something holding you down, you're being held, you fight out of it, whatever it is, it gets controlled by metal. And metal, you can think of it as pride. So you have, not really proud of yourself, but if you have pride in others, you will change your emotion of anger. If you have overthinking, this is thinking, your emotion, you put some wood energy into your thinking, and it controls too much thinking. Thinking controls fear. If you have a boogeyman that lives in your closet, and you go and check him out, you open the closet door, and you don't see a boogeyman, your fear is gone. And this is anxiety. If you have, let's see, too much thinking about things away from you, too much things going on in your head, you'll add some knowledge to it. So each part of these have a good and bad quality to them. So each part of these have a yin and yang quality. So there's anger and tenacity. There's anxiety and passion. There's thinking and overthinking. There's depression. This could be depression. This is any kind of constriction that makes you not be able to go outwards. And this is when you just get depressed and you're like in your room all the time. So if you're depressed and you're in your room all the time, you go and you get out. You have to get out.